The glass doors of the police station flew open with a loud bang, rattling in their frames as the boy sprinted inside. He couldn't have been more than 10, small, thin, with dark brown skin and wide, terrified eyes. His tiny hands gripped a bundled-up baby wrapped in a blanket, his arms trembling under the weight. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths as he stumbled forward, his voice cracking with desperation. "Help me! Please! Arrest my mom!" The officers at the front desk looked up, startled. A few stood from their chairs, their hands instinctively hovering near their belts. The station, usually buzzing with quiet chatter and the occasional ringing phone, fell into a stunned silence. The boy clutched the baby closer, his eyes darting between the officers, pleading for someone to do something. A tall officer with a graying mustache stepped forward first, lowering himself to eye level with the boy. His badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights, but his voice was gentle. "Hey, hey! Slow down, kid. What's going on? What's your name?" But the boy wasn't listening. He shook his head violently, his breath hitching. "She's gonna hurt her. You have to come now." The baby let out a small, soft whimper, shifting in the boy's grip. That was when everyone noticed. This child, this frightened boy, was black, and the baby in his arms, pale as snow. The officers exchanged glances, silent questions hanging in the air. Whose baby was this? What was he running from? And why was he begging for his own mother to be arrested? The boy swallowed hard, his tiny fingers tightening around the blanket. "Please," he whispered this time, his voice breaking. "I don't have much time." And that was enough. The officers moved, but none of them knew what they were walking into. The officer, still crouched at the boy's level, gave a small nod. "All right, son, we're going to help, but I need you to take a deep breath and tell me, where is your mom right now?" The boy licked his dry lips, his hands tightening around the baby. "At home," he whispered. "But I don't know how long she's gonna stay there." His voice was thick with fear, his eyes darting toward the door as if expecting someone to burst in any second. One of the officers radioed dispatch while another gently reached out. "Is the baby hurt?" The boy hesitated. "She's not crying much, but she was shaking before." That sent a fresh wave of urgency through the room. A young female officer, who had been watching closely, stepped forward. "Let's get them checked out," she said quickly, gesturing toward one of the empty interview rooms. "Come on, buddy, you're safe now." The boy hesitated, then nodded, his small frame still tense. The officer led him inside, where he finally sank into a chair, cradling the baby like his life depended on it. "Okay," the officer said, pulling up a chair across from him. "Start from the beginning. What's your name?" The boy's fingers fidgeted with the baby's blanket as he answered, "Jaden." "And the baby?" His voice wavered. "Her name's Lily." The officer gave a reassuring nod. "Jaden, tell me what happened. Why do you want us to arrest your mom?" Jaden's lips pressed together, his small chest rising and falling unevenly. He glanced down at Lily, his expression torn between sadness and fear. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because she's not supposed to have her." The officer's brows knitted together. "What do you mean?" Jaden squeezed his eyes shut, trying to find the right words. "She took her," he said finally. She just took her." A tense silence filled the room as the officer's heart began to race. "Jaden," she said carefully, leaning in. "Are you saying your mom kidnapped this baby?" Jaden swallowed hard, looking up with eyes full of something too old for his 10-year-old face. "She said she was just helping," he whispered, She said the baby was better off with us, but I don't think that's true. I think she's in trouble." The officer's stomach twisted. This wasn't just about a scared little boy running into a police station. This was something much bigger. Outside the room, the senior officers were already on high alert. A missing child case could explode fast. One officer was already checking recent reports, while another was calling in social services. If what Jaden said was true, there was a frantic family out there somewhere, desperate, terrified, searching for their baby. But there was still one huge question left unanswered. Who exactly was Jaden's mother? And why had she taken Lily? As the officers worked, Jaden sat in the interview room, his fingers still gripping Lily's blanket. His heart pounded in his chest, because deep down, he knew. If the police went after his mother, they weren't just going to find Lily. They were going to find something much worse. And by then, it might already be too late. Jaden sat stiff in the chair, his hands still wrapped tightly around Lily. He could hear the officers moving outside the room, their voices low but urgent. Every passing second made his stomach twist. He had done the right thing, hadn't he? He had to believe that. The officer in front of him leaned forward slightly. "Jaden," she said gently. "What do you mean by something worse?" Jaden's breath hitched. He had hoped they wouldn't ask. But it was too late now. He had come this far. "My mom," he swallowed. "She's been acting weird for weeks, saying things like how the world isn't fair and how some people don't deserve what they have. She kept talking about a woman she used to work for." His fingers tugged at a loose thread in the baby's blanket. "She used to clean houses. She said the people in those big houses never saw her, never cared." The officer's face remained calm, but she could feel the tension rising in the room. Jaden took a shaky breath. "She said one day she was going to take something back." The words hung in the air. The officer felt her pulse quicken. This wasn't just a kidnapping. It was personal. A loud knock on the door made Jaden flinch. Another officer stepped inside, holding a folder. His face was grim. He nodded toward the senior officer. "That baby, Lily, she was reported missing 5 hours ago." His voice was firm, but low, like he didn't want to scare Jaden. "From a wealthy neighborhood across town. Her parents are looking for her." Jaden's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "I knew it," he whispered. His hands gripped Lily a little tighter, as if trying to protect her from something only he understood. The officers exchanged looks. "Time was running out. We need to find your mom," the first officer said, careful but firm. "Can you tell us where she is?" Jaden hesitated. He wanted to protect his mom. He really did. But when he looked down at Lily, so small, so innocent, he knew what had to be done. He met the officer's eyes. "She's at home," he said, "but she won't stay there for long." Within minutes, police cars were speeding through the city, sirens blaring. Jaden sat in the back of one, clutching Lily close, his heart pounding with each turn of the wheel. When they reached his neighborhood, his worst fears came true. The front door to his house was wide open. His mother was gone. The house was in chaos. Drawers yanked open, papers scattered, like someone had been in a hurry. Jaden felt a lump rise in his throat. Had he been too late? Then an officer called out, "Backyard!" Jaden rushed outside, just in time to see his mother, standing near the back fence. Her hands were shaking, her eyes wild. She was holding something, a small suitcase. "Mom!" Jaden's voice cracked. She turned sharply at the sound, her face shifting between shock and pain. Then her eyes landed on Lily, still bundled in his arms. For a moment, no one moved. The officers stood ready, waiting. Tears welled in Jaden's mother's eyes. "I was trying to fix things," she whispered. "I was just trying to make it fair." Jaden shook his head. "Mom, this isn't the way." His voice wavered. "Lily belongs with her family." His mother looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time, Jaden saw something break inside her. Her shoulders dropped. The anger, the determination, it all drained away. Slowly, she let the suitcase slip from her hands. The officers moved in carefully, speaking softly as they took her into custody. She didn't fight. She didn't say another word. Jaden stood there, watching as they led her away. His heart felt heavy, but deep down, he knew he had saved Lily. He had saved himself too. A few hours later, Jaden sat in the station again, this time with a social worker beside him. Lily had already been returned to her family, safe and unharmed. They had wanted to thank him. He had nodded, but he hadn't had the words. As he stared at his hands, the social worker spoke. "You were very brave today." Jaden swallowed. "Will I see my mum again?" The woman hesitated, then nodded. "In time." She offered a small smile. "But you did the right thing, Jaden. You did something very few people could do." Jaden didn't respond right away. He just sat there, thinking. The world wasn't fair. His mom had been right about that. But maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing could still matter, and that was enough.